Mask is back, and we are actually with an alright Apex event. I see a lot of people disappointed just because it's an Apex event, and yes, it sucks that it's not a crowd or that it's a pay-per-view or whatever that's ending the year. But honestly, it's a good card. I think that people are kind of overrating how bad this card is. Yes, a few of the early fights are kind of whatever, but the main card, and even before the main card, like Neil Magny versus Yaroslav Amosov is a really good fight to have on the prelims. Like that's crazy. Teresa Belda and Jamie Lynn Horth. I'm probably pronouncing both names wrong, especially Teresa. I'm going with her because she looked really good early on against the number one contender. She's number two now, but she should be number one. I don't know why they bumped her down. Um, in the division, the number one contender, what's her name again? Natalia Silva. I was gonna go to check, but it's better if you remember. Shows that you're not a casual, right? Um, that's the end all be all if you're a casual, if you don't know the names of the fighters. No, but I'm going with her because she looked really good in that fight up until the spinning wheel kick, I think it was, to the chest. It was like the either the bottom of the chin or the upper chest that really dazed her from Natalia Silva. But before then, she was out grappling her. She looked okay in the striking as well. She was doing decent in the boxing, and I do think that if it comes down to it, yes, Jamie Lynn Horth is going to be more gritty, probably better in the I would say in the strength department, but especially since she's older, usually the older WMMA fighters are the more like uh I'd say girthy, strong, durable. And so I could definitely see this going to decision. That's probably what I'm picking here. However, I do think that Teresa, she could outgrapple Jamie Lynn Horth as we've seen in her fight against Natalia Silva up until the part where she got KO'd. But I do think that she has the grappling, maybe not the strength, but the technicality and the overall striking advantages with the height and the reach. Even if she's maybe outgunned with just the pure grittiness, where Jamie Lynn Horth can run through all the straight punches from Teresa. I think that for the most part, she's going to be out jabbing Jamie Lynn, and she's going to be using some solid teeps to the body with the front kicks, and I think that she can even land the 1-2 down the pipe a little more effectively than all the hooks that Jamie Lynn Horth is probably going to just be spamming to try and get in the pocket. Decision 29-28 probably. Maybe 30-27. Alan Fry versus Gurilemi. Pat, I'm going to be honest, I did not watch any of these guys. They probably fought on the Contender Series. No, that guy didn't, and that guy didn't. So I have no idea why they're getting a shot in the UFC. Did they fight like prior in the Contender? Okay, I have no idea why they're getting a shot in the UFC. I'm just going to go with Fry, I guess, because most people on Tapology are picking him. I assume that this fight got put together like last second. I'm going to go with first round KO because it's heavyweight, and they both seem like regional slop. Luana Santos, Melissa Corden. I also really don't know who to pick on this one. I think that Melissa Corden's a solid underdog here. Uh, I mean, it's WMMA. I'm gonna go with Melissa Corden decision, whatever. I really don't remember too much of their game. I know that Luana Santos has the jiu-jitsu, of course, because she's Brazilian. She has the BJJ. But Melissa Corden, from what I've heard, she's a solid grappler. I think I saw her last fight, but I forgot. Yeah, Tionara Lisboa, I think that's how you say it. Yeah, punches from top position. That shows that she's probably stronger on the ground. I think that she's going to be able to get the body triangle and just pound her out. So I'm going to say, but she's not going to be able to finish the fight from there because women's MMA that they have peppermint punches. So decision 30-27, I'll say, I guess. Sean Sharaf and Stephen Asplund. Sean Sharaf got smoked by Junior Tafa. Now, to be fair, I know that people are saying that that looks bad, and it obviously does. But I mean, Junior Tafa's terrible, so that's not a good look. But it was on a week's notice. I'm pretty certain. At least I know it was short notice. So he didn't really have a training camp, so that could be why he gassed there. And that's mostly why he got TKO'd in the second round there, because he was constantly eating these punches that he just couldn't take because he was gassing for air, so he couldn't really throw back and he couldn't really keep up his arms meaningfully to block the shots. And Steven Asplund, I'm gonna be honest, I haven't really seen too much from him. I don't really like. I know that he KO'd a guy on Contender Series quite well, but these are low-level guys. And Sean Sharaf, I understand that he also doesn't have a lot of experience, but Steven doesn't have that experience in the UFC yet. That's the difference. So it's certainly not a guarantee here, but you got to go with Asplund just for the sheer fact that the junior top is not really that like UFC caliber. It's like, yes, Sean has that UFC experience, but it's against one of the bottom of the barrel heavyweights. So I'm gonna go with maybe Sean actually takes down Steven, but he gets right back up and then he reverses. He gets a takedown on Sean, a double leg, and then he just ground and pounds him to TKO. Somewhat brutal, maybe a little bit late of a stoppage. Joe Anderson Brito, although I gotta say, you should not be having. Oh, I skipped this fight. That's what happened in the last event. I freaking. I skipped it. I went back to it. It was the Polish guy versus Ibo Aslan. Iwo versus Ibo. And I actually did pick Iwo. I went back and picked that, so that was a good pick by me, first round KO. And even with the Jalen Turner versus Edson Barboza, I guess I picked. I guess I accidentally clicked Edson, but if you watch the video, you know I picked Jalen. So that's kind of sucky that the topology you can't really change that back because you know you picked one guy, but you accidentally clicked the other. But yeah, that's how it is. And yeah, one thing I gotta say, like Asplund, you should not be looking like that in the UFC. Like it doesn't show his belly, but he looks so bad physically. But Sean doesn't look much better, honestly. And looks don't win you fights. So Neil Magny, Yaroslav Amosov. I'm going with Yaroslav Amosov by submission. Honestly, I think that does he have a submission in recent memory? Yeah, okay, I thought so. Anaconda, that surprised me. I thought he had like a rear naked, but close enough anyway. I mean, it's not that close, but you get my point. I think that he's gonna in the first round, he's going to have a little bit of a hard time dealing with the range in the maybe first couple minutes. He's going to land a couple overhands as the first round goes on. And then by the end of the first round, I think he's going to drop Neil Magny with like a jab too. And I think that he's going to almost finish, but similar against, what's the kid's name? Jake Matthews. I think that he's going to almost get it, but not quite. He's going to be saved by the bell. Second round comes. And I'm going to say second round. Second round comes, and we're thinking, oh, he's going to mount another comeback like he did against his last two opponents, Leslie Zaleski, I can't believe I forgot his name, and Jake Matthews. And, oh, he's going to get the ground and pound TKO like he did against them too, even though it was a submission against Jake Matthews, I believe, rear naked, right? Or Darce choke, I forgot. He has a pretty good Darce choke, Neil Magny, but no, he's going to go for it, and then Yaroslav Emoslav, he just rides the position. Neil Magny's probably riding him on top, and then he goes for the body triangle a little too late, and he slips off the back. He falls on bottom position. Even though he's a crafty vet, he falls off, going for a little too hungry, thinking, okay, I'm riding some momentum here. I always get these comebacks. And I think that what's going to happen is Yaroslav's going to ground and pound him. He's going to give up his back, Neil Magny. And I think that Yaroslav's going to get a rear naked choke. I think that he's going to lock in the body triangle, because in this position, Yaroslav is the one... he's the one pressuring. He's the one on top. He's the more fresh fighter, because Neil Magny, he was getting beaten up in the first round with massive ground and pound, and he was already dropped. And what's going to happen is he's gonna not want to eat any more punishment with the ground and pound, and then he's also like he was riding the back of Yaroslav, and then he falls off, and then Yaroslav, on the other hand, he doesn't have to ride the back because he already fell off Neil Magny. So then Yaroslav is going to have to just simply get on top, ride the position from the ground, and then he's just going to have to ride the back until Neil Magny presents the neck. And from there, he's just going to have to fight the hands, get the choke, slap on a rear naked, and then he's got it. So I think that Neil Magny, he hasn't really had to fight a position... a proficient back taker, nor a jiu-jitsu guy in general. And I'm not saying Yaroslav is a jiu-jitsu guy, but he's super well-rounded. He has solid jiu-jitsu. And that's not something that he's had to deal with too much. He had to deal with it a little bit in the first round against Jake Matthews, but I think this guy is like a better Jake Matthews, honestly, just all around. So I'm going to say second round submission. And Isaac Thompson versus Joanderson Brito. This is pretty easy. Brito is going to finish this guy quite quick. I'm going to say leg kick TKO in the first round. Now, he could surprise us here. because he was landing a bunch of those leg kicks, a bunch of those just peppermint leg kicks, peppermint against what's the kid's name? I'm sounding like Dana White more and more by the day. I keep calling these guys "What's the kid? What's the kid?" I'm like Dana White right now, but it was Jack Shore. He was constantly landing those peppermint kicks. Eventually, it was a leg kick TKO because he had a cut on his leg from the leg kicks, and that's bad. But like, it shouldn't have stopped the fight. Either way, I think it's gonna be like that. He sort of it's like this with these good leg kickers, like Joe Fernandez did this against that one British guy. I completely forget that MMA Guru was kind of hyping, although he didn't pick him, but he was still hyping him up. And he's just gonna fall to the ground, and he's sort of gonna play that guard with the jiu-jitsu. He's gonna try and bring Joe Anderson to his guard, but Joe Anderson's gonna like ask the ref to like bring him back to his feet. He will oblige because he has to, and then he's gonna eat some more leg kicks, and he's gonna get dropped down again. It's gonna be very similar to the Koi Fernandez, whoever the Brit was he fight in that last Qatar fight, I believe it was. No, it was Azerbaijan. I'm pretty sure. Either way, he's gonna drop him again with the leg kicks, and then he's gonna, or maybe he just drops him with the 1-2. And I believe that he's going to, although he does like a lead hook, Joe Anderson. Either way, he's going to Isaac Thompson's going to shell up, and he's going to just, while he's in his guard, Joe Anderson's going to land some nasty elbows and just finish the fight from there. First round KO. Amanda Lemos, Julian Robertson. Yeah, this is pretty easy. I'm actually going to go with another submission. This might be quite surprising for a WMMA fight, but I'm going to go with a. Um, I'll go with second round. I was feeling a third round, but because she usually gets quite gritty she usually gets the most gritty in the third round. Like, I believe that's when her best round was against not just her, Luana. Yeah, Luana. It was actually surprisingly close, and then she really separated her from Luana in that third round, where she was just constantly letting her hands go on the ground, and she was constantly getting takedowns. She was just really putting her all into those takedowns. And I do see a possibility where that happens again. But I'm going to say second round submission. I think that Amanda Lemos defensively is not all that. In her last win, I believe that she was. What was it again? Uh, Yasmin Lucindo? Yeah. Against her, she was actually working some offensive grappling, which was quite decent from her. But defensively, she's very bad on the ground. She just pulls guard. She just kind of accepts bottom position. She doesn't really work her way up to the feet unless she's able to, like, ride the fence, um, turtle a little bit. But she rarely even tries to turtle. She just kind of, if she, if the opportunity presents herself, like, if her opponent's trying to get the back, she'll maybe walk against the fence, uh, try to get one knee up and then try to walk her way up. I don't think that that's going to work here. I think Julian Robertson, even if she attempts to do that, she's going to keep dragging her down. She's going to get the body lock, and I do think that she's going to get the back. And I think Amanda Lemos doesn't really, she hasn't really gone up against a girl that's going to have to, like she hasn't in recent times fought a was Mackenzie Dern, who's a pretty good back taker. She hasn't fought no, Verna Jandaroba as well, another solid back taker. She hasn't fought these girls who have a really, really well-rounded jiu-jitsu game who also can take the back. And I'm not just going with rear naked chokes every single time, but I do think it's one of the more common submissions to go for. And guillotines don't usually work, not at the high level. I think that it's possible for Julian because Amanda Lemos does have a tendency to gas these days in the grappling. But I mean, if Tatiana is not able to really pull off guillotines against her, which a guillotine is a submission that Tatiana likes to go for, like she did against Jessica Andrade. I'm not going to say that a guillotine's what Julian gets. I'm going to say probably rear naked, where Amanda's sort of gassing and tiring at her older age from fighting the hands, from trying to get the grip off her. I think it's going to be maybe a standing rear naked choke, I'm going to say. Second round. Hey, Ken Green, he's back, or Mr. Bob Green. I'm actually gonna go with a Peppermint Punches round 2 TKO. I think that Lance Gibson, I've not been able to find any tape on this guy. I think King Green's shown a much higher level. I think that people just saying, oh, but he fights with his hands low, is such a stupid argument to pick Lance Gibson against Bobby Green just because he fights with his hands low. Like, okay, yeah, so does like Conor McGregor sometimes. So does like a bunch of other great fighters. So does Marcio Rufy. Pretty much fights with his hands low a lot of the time, and he's granted he got fraud checked against BSD, but that's a really good fighter. We now know BSD is literally number 7 ranked. So I mean, Marcio Rufy, just because he fought with his hands low doesn't mean that he was going to lose against Bob Green. You know, that doesn't mean anything. I mean, it kind of does. It's like, okay, stylistically, if you're going up against a guy who has really sharp punches down the pipe, it's a worrying thing to fight with your hands low or accurate shots all around. But Lance Gibson, he does not show me anything. He's a 9-1 just prospect, I guess. But he doesn't like he doesn't have any film. He doesn't have any tape on YouTube or anywhere to watch. You can't find his fights, so it's like you just have to assume. Okay, he has a 9-1 record. He has basically the same attributes. That doesn't tell me anything. We know that King Green or Bob Green, whatever name you want to call him, we know that he has a really good jab, an amazing jab. He has solid hooks around the guard. He has that the two is also really good. A really nice cross that's super accurate. The way he was able to land it straight through the guard against Jim Miller when he sort of agged him on with the point down in the last minute at UFC 300 of the last round. Like that was a really good showing from Bobby Green. And these guys that just spam overhands, which I feel like Lance is probably going to do because he's not seen the bright lights of the UFC yet, and he's not proven at all. Just 9-1 does not tell you anything. I think that he's going to piece up Lance with the jab, like 100 jabs early on in the first round. And then I think that Lance's face is going to get busted up. Then Bob Green is going to have the confidence to land the cross down the pipe. And I even think his knee stomps and calf kicks are pretty solid. Those are quite underrated from Green. He doesn't throw them too much, but the knee stomps are a little bit consistent from him. And he even goes to the body a little bit. That's something that people kind of underrate from Green. So yeah, and he even shot a takedown, or maybe it was a defense, and then he actually got to the arm triangle from the defense of a takedown from Tony. But he even got that solid takedown to the arm triangle from, I know that was a while ago, but from Tony Ferguson, he got the arm triangle. So I think that Tony, even at that point, is probably at the level that Lance Gibson is, if I had to guess, because we don't know anything about Lance. This is just a Joe Schmo that people are picking because Green has his hands low when he fights. Like, okay, yeah, but he still has like 13 wins in the UFC. That didn't stop him from winning against most of these guys, against, almost winning against Drew Dober before he got KO'd. Like, these are solid against Grant Dawson, who's a solid win. Marcus Buchecha versus Kenny Nzechukwu. I'm actually going with Buchecha by a first round submission. I know that's kind of surprising considering that he's not the freak athlete and the proficient leg locker that Walter Walker is, or heel hooker. But I do think that he does have some really solid submissions. He does have a really solid heel hook, even though it's not quite Walter Walker's. And his double leg I liked against Martin Buday. It sucks that they cut Martin Buday, even though he won against Buchecha. But I do think that was a hard stylistical matchup where Buday is a very thick, like bulky heavyweight, where it's going to be hard to actually work anything on the back there. And I think that we know that Kennedy really struggled with the heel hook against, or I can't remember, was it heel hook or leg lock? I think it was heel hook, yeah. Against Walter Walker, he really struggled in that position, and it was kind of just from him bum rushing Kennedy. Walter did. So I think that Marcus, with his honestly probably more athletic double leg, I think he's going to be able to get Kennedy down. He's going to put him on the back, and I do think that he could go for the heel hook, or he could go for the back. Either way, I do think that Kennedy hasn't had to deal with these guys. And even when he did, he showed that he wasn't able to defend against Walter Walker. So I do think that Marcus Buchecha isn't quite at that heel hook proficiency of a Walter Walker. But I really liked his athleticism early against Martin Buday, even though he wasn't able to work anything on him. I think that Kennedy is that sort of light heavyweight archetype style, where it's more lanky of a build, that you could sort of work that body triangle, fight the hands, get the choke, or you could honestly work that heel hook, which it doesn't seem like he's very prepared to deal with. So yeah, first round sub. I could see a second round, to be honest, as well. Ezequiel Costa versus Morgan Charrier. This is honestly a very tough fight to predict, but I'm going with Ezequiel Costa. these odds are always close with Ezequiel Costa because he never makes it like a 30-27 complete domination. He never really separates himself like that. There'll always be a 29-28 even if he gets a pretty clear 30-27 because he's not really that like dominant in his performances. He has a really good flicky teep kick. He has a solid cross, okay hooks, and he has a nice jab, but he doesn't throw too often. He doesn't have that much output, but he does just enough over his opponent. He's not like he's like a Sean Strickland a little bit, where although he does engage in the jiu-jitsu a little bit more, he'll throw a lot of teeps, he'll throw a few jabs, and he'll throw across a little more than Sean does. But he doesn't quite have as good of a jab as a Sean Strickland. And he's really underrated. Like one more win, and he should get that rankings. He should look to the rankings soon. But Morgan Charrier, I am going to say that he gets some really good hooks in, and he drops him in round two. I do think that he has the really good athletic hooks, but his output later as the fight goes on really decreases, and he kind of just resigns himself to throwing like 14 hooks, like 14, 15 hooks, that sort of range where he just does a little bit less than his opponent, where it's like 14 significant strikes from Morgan Charrier, 20, 21, something like that from Ezequiel. He just does a little more pump in the jab, and Morgan, he relies on these big, powerful hooks a little too much, like he did against Nate Landwehr, where he was literally losing that fight against a guy who had all the attributes disadvantage. And I do think that Ezequiel Costa, one underrated thing that people don't talk about enough, he works the clinch really well. He's not the most powerful in that position, he's not the most strong, but he's just very technically proficient. He knows how to get the over unders. He knows how to get the arm trapped and work the knees in the clinch. I think that he's just, and then he can work these little small peppermint uppercuts in the clinch as well, where he's got his head positioned over his opponent, and he could just work some little pitter pat shots up against his opponent and against the fence. So yeah, I do think 29-28 is pretty fair here. Although the hooks are certainly worrying because he has shown sus chin in the past. So the hooks from Morgan Charrier, the big athletic hooks, is certainly something to worry about. And he does have some solid front kicks and leg kicks, Morgan. Sometimes he'll even mix in a head kick, but they're pretty, like a spinning head kick, but they're pretty predictable and telegraphed. So, I mean, it's probably going to land on the guard, if anything. And then Cezary Oleszejczuk, kind of an interesting first name for a Polish guy. But against Cesar Almeida, a similar name as well. I'm going with Cezary Oleszejczuk. I do think that Almeida's timing in the pocket is certainly worrying. The way that how he was able to fire a counter hook against Abdul Razak Al Hassan was certainly worrying to going up against Cezary because Cezary Oleszejczuk, he's a little bit he's not the most defensively responsible guy. Like he doesn't seem like he keeps his hands up too much, or not super close to his chin or his temple. He keeps them up, but not like directly to his head. But he does have some decent head movement, which is certainly a good thing going into this. He's not a bum rusher. He's not a guy that just goes right into the fire lines or whatever you want to call it against like a Razak Al Hassan, where he just goes into the firefight immediately with throwing caution through the wind. But even a guy like that was able to drop Cesar Almeida. Even with Cesar Almeida's really good timing, he still was able to get dropped there because he's a little slow and stiff. He has really good kickboxing. He has really good fundamentals. He's able to find these counters in the firefight, like the hooks as well, especially. I mean, you see that going up against a Alex Pereira, for example. But wait, did he go up against Alex? I think he trains with Alex. I think that's what I'm saying. But the problem is, I just think that he doesn't do enough. He doesn't throw enough output. And against Ihor Potieria, which really wasn't a good performance, I poked him like 4 times, or at least she did 4 times, and he didn't get he didn't get a point taken away from him, which is crazy. I just think that it's just too much output from Cesare, and I do think that he has the power as well to earn the respect. He's not going to be reckless like a Razak Al Hassan, while having educated pressure, decent power. He's just gonna do what Razak Al Hassan did, but with better head movement, not to rush in too far. And I could even see him win a decision off the maybe dropping him a couple times. I think the leg kicks are the only thing that Caesar has to worry about. I don't think the counters are going to be too much there for Caesar, with the reach not being too much and the height not being too much. I think it's going to be a clear cut Caesar. I'm going to say round 3 TKO, where he kind of busts him up as the fight goes on with some solid hooks and some solid jabs down the pipe. Giga Chikadze, Kevin Vallejos. I'm going with, I think this is a really, really good underdog. I think that's crazy that only 11 people are picking Chikadze. That's insane. I'm going with Chikadze via, I'm going to say a round 2 KO. I think that people are massively overrating Kevin Vallejos. People are like, oh my gosh, he has such a good resume. He looks so good. Against what? Against Gene Silva? Gene Silva's good, don't get me wrong, but he's still unproven, Gene Silva. He got smacked up by um, Diego Lopez, brutalized with that spinning elbow. And Kevin Vallejos, he was having success in that moment, in that fight, because he's a pocket guy, Gene Silva. As much as he's able to find the range and counter you as a longer fighter, he's mainly a counter boxer, Gene Silva. He has some good Muay Thai, but he's mainly a counter boxer, and he's not really like. That's why Kevin Vallejos was able to find success, because Gene Silva will cover up with the high guard. He'll let you trade some punches in the pocket. Whereas Giga Chikadze, he likes the kicking range. He really has some nasty body kicks where he'll stab the liver with the toes. And I understand that Kevin Vallejos is going to be ready for that. He has a really nice tight guard, and that's a really, really good guard he has there. But um, I did not like his performance at all against Danny Silva. He was constantly eating the 1-2. He was eating the hooks around the guard. He was eating the 1-2-3, the 3-2, the all kinds of boxing combinations. And yes, it was a clear cut 30-27, but every round was super close. It was a couple strikes away from being a split decision. And you know, if two of the rounds had a couple more strikes going Danny Silva's way, it would have been a split decision. It was very close rounds despite him getting a 30-27. And so, with that being said, I think that Giga Chikadze has been much more proven against much higher level boxers. I understand that Calvin Kattar is not that high level nowadays, and Kevin Vallejos would probably beat Calvin Kattar. But I don't know, would he? Because Kevin Vallejos did not have a really good output against a guy who actually had the height and reach attributes. Like, Danny Silva's only slightly taller. I think that he's like 5'8", maybe, and he's like the same reach. And Danny Silva was just kind of off of having more straight punches, keeping it very close. I think that Giga Chikadze, although his boxing's not that good, I do think that he has the straighter punches. Kevin Vallejos really relies on that overhand, and it could land on the dome and drop Giga in one section of the fight, but I do think that Kevin Vallejos hasn't shown a great gas tank either. In the third round, he was gassing against, even against Danny Silva, he was slowing down, but he was gassing against Gene Silva, and he relies on that overhand, these hooks around the guard. He has really precise hooks and overhands, but I mean, his jab is okay, I guess, but it's just the output from him. Even against the Korean guy that he knocked out, Sang Woo Choi, Seung Woo Choi. Yes, he found the overhand, but before that, he was like throwing nothing. He landed like, or he threw like 4 punches in like 4 minutes. Like, that's crazy. That output was really bad from him, and he showed some okay leg kicks in the People are also saying that he's got some grappling that he could work here. I've not seen that really at all. I mean, maybe I'm forgetting against Danny Silva. Maybe he shot a few takedowns, but I don't think that Giga's takedown defense is as bad as people are saying it is. Just because he got worked against Steve Garcia, who's really good, who's number 8 ranked in the division right now. I think that people are overrating him massively just off of a freaking Danny Silva win and a Singwoo Choi win. These guys are terrible wins to have. Like, literally, Danny Silva, his only reason that he was 10-1 is off of 2 like super close split decisions. He's not nearly Giga's level. I think that he mixes in the leg kicks to the body, to the head really well. He mixes those targets. And granted, Kevin Vallejos has a really good guard. But we haven't seen him check leg kicks, really. We haven't seen him having to deal with a proficient leg kicker who has solid reflexes, who, even though, yes, Kevin Vallejos timed the leg kick to KO Seung Woo Choi, he doesn't have the reflexes, Seung Woo Choi, of a Giga Chikadze. He doesn't have the head movement. And I think he's going to have to rely on something crazy to actually KO Giga. So I think that Giga's going to land something to the body. It's going to hurt Kevin. He's going to lower his hands. And then I think that Giga's going to land a jab to the hook, to the face of Kevin. And I think that just because he has a blockhead doesn't mean he can't be chinned. So I think he's going to be chinned. I really do. He's going to lower his guard to the body. And he's not going to like what's coming upstairs. Brennan Royval and Manel Kape. I mean, yeah, this is a pretty See, I think that it's a solid underdog from Brendan Royval, but at one point are we going to say, okay, the underdog pick of Brendan Royval is just not going to work here? I'm going with Manel Cap by a second round KO as well. I think that people are kind of underrating Manel Cap just because, yes, he cheats a lot, but that's a good thing going into this. You should actually be looking at it as a good thing picking Manel Cap here. I think that Manel Cap, yes, he is the shorter guy. He is going to have a reach to, I mean, obviously they're the same reach, but let's be honest, he's got like a pretty solid height disadvantage, so that reach isn't going to be that effective. It's basically going to be like a 1 or 2 inch reach disadvantage, considering that he's going to have that height issue to work with, and considering that Brennan likes to use that jab much more. So it's going to be hard for him to get inside to work his hooks, which Manel Cap has amazing hooks. The problem is for Brandon Royval here is I think that these fleeky jabs are going to be much too predictable against a counter striker, probably one of the best counter strikers in the flyweight division in Manel Cap. He's not quite a Joshua Van, but we saw what Joshua Van did to Brandon Royval, and I do think that Manel Cap has better power. And even if he doesn't land with full impact, full power, I do think that he does have the sort of palm punches that flick with the it'll bother the eye. Those palm punches where they could flick the almost an eye poke, like a half eye poke. He kind of has palm strikes. He keeps his hand open. It's almost like a slap. And so I do think that those are kind of gonna bother the eyes, bother the vision of Brandon Royval. And I think that the follow up hook after the lead hook is gonna be problematic, especially if he lands with the palm there, and actually the finger catches the eye there. Which he often does. You saw the 2-3 piece eye poke from the open palm slap eye poke against Asu Almabayev in his last fight. And I do think that his speed is going to be a problem for Brandon Royval. It's these more athletic guys that are able to land around these jabs that are super predictable from Brandon Royval. Don't get me wrong, Brandon Royval, he has a super out of nowhere knee. He has a super out of nowhere spinning elbow. Those are always stuff that you have to watch out for Brandon Royval here. But I don't think that the takedowns are going to be there. I don't think that the sort of game that Tatsuro Taira was working on Brandon Royval, I don't think that that's going to be a problem where Manel Cap's going to gas because of that. The only reason that he'd gas is because he's actually he's eating too many jabs, is that he's getting hit by too many of them. But the thing is, I think that his head movement, his evasive movement, the fact that he fights the hands super well, super brilliantly, I think that's amazing. His setups are really nice. The way that he's able to switch stances, fake with the cross, and then switch stance, come in with a beautiful overhand to the hook, like stuff like that. It's just amazing. Only thing is his setups. It's like you don't have a jab set up really. Sometimes he'll feint a jab, but for the most part he feints these loopy punches, which is certainly worrying here. And he doesn't throw enough kicks. Like he does have some solid leg kicks when he actually throws them with some solid power. But I can see Brandon Royval chopping the leg a little bit here. It's going to be a little tricky in the first round, but I think he's going to find his timing. Counter Brandon Royval coming in with a three-piece jab. I think that he's going to pump the jab 3 times in a row here. It's going to be super predictable. He finds his timing after Brandon Royval does that a couple times in the first round. Then he does in the third round near the beginning after like the second minute in the second round. And then I think he's going to find a beautiful counter right hook as Brandon Royval's coming in with the hook. I mean, with the jab, with the three-piece jab. And I think it's going to be a beautiful, right on the chin, like Ilia Topuria versus Charles Oliveira hook that really rocks Brandon Royval. And he tries to play the guard game. He tries to get a leg, Brandon Royval. He tries to, potentially get a leg lock or a heel hook. But Manel Cap lands a beautiful follow-up right hand, a couple more from the left, and then boom, it's over. I think that ground and pound is going to be lethal, and I do think that Brandon Royval's chin has to go away at one point because he's gone to enough wars in his career that I think it's going to go at this point. His chin, he hasn't shown an amazing chin, but I think that it's gonna crack at this point. It has to crack at some point, and so those are my picks for the final fight night of the year. I'm gonna do a recap of the events this year. Thank you so much for watching. Merry Christmas. Like, comment, subscribe. Mask of MMA out.